Hey, what's going on, guys? Beefladen here with a brand new video today. As you saw in that clip in the intro, this build can hit for absolute wild amount of damage. It hits for millions, it hits for hundreds of thousands with ease and no problems. Now keep in mind that there is a bit of RNG associated with the build, but we're going to go ahead and showcase what it can actually do. Go ahead and do it, shall we? Alright, cool. So this is called Oil and Spicy. Oil and Spicy is going to be all around the Oil and Spice SMG. A lot of people have kind of shunned it, kind of been under the radar. However, there is a way to make this thing absolutely ridiculous. So in the intro, I showcased dropping the oil, lighting the oil in a very specific manner. Let's go ahead and cover that, shall we, in our weapons, and then we'll go to our skills, and then we could showcase what it can actually do in a combat situation. So Oil and Spice on action skill start increase status effect chance of damage by 20% for 10 seconds. This is going to be pushing us over the 100% mark for status effect damage, which is important for what we're doing with the build. Now, the Salt and Battery. The Salt and Battery is on spellcast, increase elemental damage by 20% for 5 seconds. This is going to be important for our fire damage. The rest of the items that I have on here are just fillers. They're not really going to be important for the build whatsoever, so you can fill them with whatever you'd like. The 2 rings that we have are Wyvern's Rings. These are going to be increasing our fire damage by 20% extra per. The other passives don't really matter. The Curse Wit is going to be on action skill start, increase damage dealt by 20% for 20 seconds. However, you can also switch this out with on spellcast, increase fire damage by 30% for 5 seconds if you want to increase that further. There is one more I would recommend, and that's during action skill duration, increase elemental damage effect by 35%. In fact, that's probably one of the more ideal. But either one will work, depending on your preference. We're using the Miasmic Mail. The Miasmic Mail rolled in 3 Contagion. It comes with movement and all damage. The melee doesn't matter on the build. The most important thing about it is just having the Miasmic Mail, because it gives you 45% status effect damage, and that's the most important. The kill steal for status effect chance is not really that important. The status effect damage is. Sacrificial Steep, I've used this on a previous build. It rolls in double status effect damage, which is very important. 81% status effect damage. And it also rolls on a Skeep, so whenever you go under half your HP, you can shoot your Skeep and revive yourself. Now the spells are going to be there just solely for proccing off the oil that we're going to be dropping on the ground. While action skill is active, increase fire damage by 50%, which really brings the build together. You can use Calamity, you can use Garlic Breath, you can use Bolt Lash, you can use Spectral Talons, Dynamos, Marshmallows, Inflammations. Anything to set off the oil on the ground is going to be the most ideal. So you want something fire, and you want it to blow up in an AoE style. Whatever works for you. Now let's go ahead and go into our skills here. Now, before I continue, I wanted to say a huge thanks to Eternal Dragon. Eternal Dragon was the one who discovered the salt and, or sorry, not the salt, the Oil and Spice mechanic and interaction. He did it with a different style when he first initially showed me, so I switched it up around a little bit more to my style. However, if you wanted to see what his style was, you can see it in the description with all of his links and the video there below. So, Stabbomancer is pretty straightforward. It's going to be the potent poisons for status effect damage, haste so that you can get movement speed, arsenal so that we can get a little bit of extra damage in multiple different sources. This is just extra points. Swift Death, you get more damage increase the more that you're moving. Exploit their weakness. When you apply a status effect to an enemy, they take increased damage from all sources. This is important. Sneak Attack, critical hit damage is increased. This is also very important. The main interaction for everything is going to be Contagion. We rolled 3 off of our armor. However, the way that Contagion works, if you haven't seen my previous builds, is like, say there's 2 targets, A and B. What it's going to do is that it's going to bounce status effects off of each enemy, and it's going to go back and forth. However, if you're over 100% status effect damage, which is what was important, you don't have any loss of damage. There's no like diminishing returns or anything. You don't lose anything. In fact, you just keep it all. We have enough status effect damage to cover 220% elemental status effect damage, with everything calculated together. That's going to be our hero points, our enchants, everything together. 220% status effect damage. Alchemical Agent, melee critical hits apply a random status effect. This is important for what we're doing in the setup. And finally, 1,000 Cuts. Critical hits gain increased damage dealt for a duration. Now, I use Clawbringer for a couple different reasons. The first reason is that the Wyvern has Fire Breath, which can actually proc the oil, which does all the interactions for you. It's helpful in mobbing situations, not so much for one-shots at boss situations, but it can mob the exact same way. And in fact, Contagion's even better in mobbing situations, because mobs have lower HP, and there's more that, targets that you can bounce between. But Oath of Fire gives you gun damage for bonus fire damage. You're surrounded with an aura that gives you more elemental effect damage, which is also important for all the status effects. And finally, in our hero points, we max out Strength and Wisdom. The crit damage is necessary for being from the shadows, which is our action skill. Wisdom is status effect damage by 60%. And I threw the rest of the points into Dexterity for crit chance for when we're not in from the shadows, just to bring that all together. This is Oil and Spicy, and this is what it can do. So your goal for Oil and Spicy is to drop the oil onto the ground below and beneath your target, because that's when you're going to be blowing it up. I can show you what it does from there. Now, at the very beginning of the video, I did say that there's some RNG that's attached to it. You want to make sure that the oil gets nice and spread around. A hit, you drop in your Calamity or whatever you use to proc it, and your target dies. Now, if Contagion procs off of everything, that target is going to be obliterated. If it doesn't proc on everything, you're going to get a slow burn kind of like that, and it'll be dead in 2 or 3 seconds. So even if RNG is not on your side, the thing is still going to be overkilled regardless. Now, that's because of what happens with the Oil and Spice. There's an AoE that happens whenever you drop the oil. Let me see if I can show you. When you drop the oil on the ground, that's your oil there. You light it. There's an AoE explosion that's actually caused by area damage. So if you can get area damage on a miasmic mail, you are golden. Area damage is going to be huge for it, because that's what it's going to dip into. That area damage there is going to have an extra chance to gain more dots, and those dots are going to be the important thing for Contagion, thus proccing a bunch all at once. If you get all those to proc at once, that thing is going to be completely decimated. If it doesn't, that's okay. It's going to die in 3-4 seconds anyway. Now, a thing to keep in mind about the oil is that water washes away the oil. So if there's water on the ground, you can't shoot the oil in the water because it just washes it away. If there's purple water like Drill or like in Banshee, it actually goes underneath it. It still exists. Just to keep that in mind. Let me see if I can get another good example here. The oil. The setup that you want to do is as follows. Shoot 2 oil on the ground. You want to turn invisible. You want to hit your enemy. Shoot your oil again so you can get multiple on the ground. And then you activate your Calamity. There, it didn't actually proc, unfortunately, so I don't actually get my damage. But the reason why you want to do this is because Salt and Battery will proc with Echo, and you'll also get Alchemical Agent as well. Melee critical hits apply a random status effect, which is another chance to proc with Contagion, plus more damage. Fortunately, I did not get a good RNG there. But that is the setup, basically. Other than that, that's going to be the build. I have a bunch of items in the backpack to play around with, a bunch of different spells to play around with, the 2 Cursed Wits to play with. The only other one I would switch to is Action Skill Active Elemental Damage by 35%. That will make the build a little bit stronger, but it's all depending on your choice and preference. There we go, we actually got what I needed there. First Whip popping does another 100% damage, and there's a slow burn because I didn't get everything activated together, and it's dead. Now, this is going to be hitting anywhere between, I've seen the lowest of about a mil every single time. The highest I've seen so far is 145 mil, which is what I clipped earlier. I've seen 106 mil from Eternal Dragon. He's also hit for 122 after reworking it. This build is strong. The file is going to be found in Discord, and also everything in the backpack is going to be there to play around with. It'll all be equipped for you to try it out. Hope you enjoy it. Other than that, my name is B Flattened. I'm signing on out of here. Take care, all. Laters.